Alright, hello everybody. Today we are doing a bit of a different video. A tier list actually for each hero. Now, that being said, before I jump into this, a tier list is a tier list. So you can probably look up many different tier lists and see many different results and many different placements for each hero because it is opinion based, right? So, I just wanted to say that first. These are my opinions. I apologize if I rate one of your favorite heroes a bit lower. Personally for me, one of my favorite Marvel heroes ever just happens to be in this game. But I will say this, not as good as I want them to be, but they are decent. So that I just want to put a little disclaimer there that I'm going to try to be as unbiased as I can and just strictly rate it off of how they played the game, the gameplay, if they have a good passive or not, and yeah, go from there. I think without further ado, after looking at this bolstering cast here, let's just go ahead and start with one of the more obvious ones here, which is Hunter. Now, Hunter is a very good character. Which makes sense because they are the main character of the game, the character you play as, the fully customizable one, and they've got a range of very good passives, which, unlike other heroes, they have more than one passive you can pick from, which makes them pretty powerful. Me, personally, I kind of like the, I forget what it's called, but there is one, it's just the common one too, and it will either give you a resist or it will generate one heroism each turn. That's probably my most favorite one, and it's very good, as resist is a very good and overpowered buff that you can place on your heroes as it negates any attacks. What's better, dark or light? Honestly, I've played both of them. They're both pretty good. They both have their strong cards, they both have their weak cards. However, for the most part, they are both very overpowered. The dark is definitely geared towards high damage output. Like insane amounts of damage. That annihilation card is insane. That's all I could say about that. The nice thing about if you go light is you also have the healing capabilities. And the one card, for example, Holy Burst, gives you a nice AoE attack as well as healing heroes. The only problem with that is you gotta place your heroes a bit more strategically so they can all benefit from the heal, but then you also need to rely on enemies coming together. That being said, Annihilation is also an AoE card, but instead of healing, it just does a bunch of damage. It has the potential to probably be the best character in the game, which makes sense. I think that's a fair assumption because, like I said, they are the main character of the game, and they want you to feel like the character you've created is this all-out superhero, right? Would I put them? I don't know if I would put them S. Like, I say that I feel like they are the best character in the game, but they have so many cards, and which is a positive, but a lot of those cards are just not very good. I wouldn't personally use them like in my playstyle. That's the thing. This is my playstyle I'm talking about. So, you might like a different playstyle than me, and I might rate your characters different, and that's totally fine. So you don't have to agree with this. But I think Hunter is a very, very, very strong A tier, if not bottom S tier. I feel good about that. Hunter is a very good character. It's someone you'll want to bring on almost all of your missions. They are a very solid pick. They've got all those passives, like I said. Plus, they technically have a bonus passive from their collar, but I wasn't really going to count that because it's called the collar and it's not called a passive. So, but regardless, they do. They have that. Let's go on to someone else. So next we have Scarlet Witch. Gotta put it here right now while I try to decide. Now, the problem with Scarlet Witch, her legendary card, No More, has potential to be pretty decent. Uh, that potential, however, is it's very hard to set up that card, especially with her radius being so small, unless you spar with her a lot and get that size up, or if you use her one card to increase the size of it. So enemies have to be pretty closely knit with her, I found whenever I play with her. That being said, her passive also is, it can be nice. Like at the start of a next turn, if there happens to be like three enemies right next to her and she activates it, she will debuff all three of those enemies within her radius. So like pretty good. It can be pretty nice. However, whenever I use her, if that happens, like there's like three enemies beside her, she never activates her passive, or she will activate it on like a minion or something, which is one shot anyways, which I'm like, well, it's not really that helpful. Or enemies, I have a hard time positioning her and getting her to just debuff any enemies in general. And it is only like a 25% chance, I believe, that she will use her debuff. But yeah, that passive is, I don't know, on the low end, I would say. She has okay cards. Her beginning cards aren't that particularly good. I do enjoy, though, some of her purple and blue cards that she has, like her Quick Toss, Chaos Reigns, those ones where you can make enemies attack each other. Those ones are very powerful, and those are very good cards. I feel comfortable putting her as a C. She's not bad, but very hard to use, very situational, relies on enemies grouping up. And if you pair her with the wrong hero, someone like, let's say, Deadpool, or someone who's really good at like taking out enemies one at a time, it leaves less enemies on the map for her to attack, and she doesn't really have cards for that. So I'm gonna kind of put her at a C for now. Now Magik. Oh, probably one of the best, if not the best, legendary card in the game, especially when you upgrade it. As not only will she become invincible, but she will add counter as well for everyone that attacks her. And as you may already know, with that card, she taunts every single enemy to attack her, and she takes no damage. So it's a really good card. However, her passive is nice. It's okay. I don't know. It doesn't really do too much. Her cards, on the other hand, especially her beginning ones, are not very good. Her quick slashes and soul blast and all of those are not good at all, and I'll explain why. So this is a character you're going to want to do sparring with to increase her knockback distance with. And this ties into this because those quick slash and soul blast, those kind of cards, the kick card, actually I think that one does some damage. Maybe it doesn't, I can't quite remember. But those cards don't do any damage, they only knock back the enemy. So you could see where that could be a bit of a problem, especially if you don't have an ally standing behind the enemy you're trying to hit, or if the enemy's out in the open, there's nothing to bounce them off of. So if your card does no damage, you effectively are just pushing the enemy along, and you're going to have to try to push them into an environmental attack, or it's just more work than necessary. So what you're going to want to do with her is probably try to add a mod to those cards where they do damage, which is unfortunate because there's already people like Wolverine, for example, who has quick swipe that already does damage, so you can add a better mod to that card. So it feels like a waste of a mod, and I feel like it's a very big disadvantage. However, that's because she can move people around if you set up a portal. But then again, you need a portal card for that. Her ability to control people on the field is really nice, but those first few cards are not good at all. And her gather card is meant to like help people such as Scarlet Witch to like group them up. But even then, I found for some reason if you use that, the enemies bunch too close together, and then they'll just run off because they're clipping into each other, so they can't stand too close. And yeah, some of them will just run off, and then they're out of Scarlet Witch's range. I've had that happen so many times to me, so it just the idea is there, but I think Magik falls a little bit short. And I think the only reason I'm putting her at D and not an F is because of her card, her legendary card. Um, I've really tried to use this character and tried to have liked them, but something just doesn't feel good with them. At least in my playstyle. I've seen people rank her as S tier, but for me, the way I play, I do not enjoy it at all. I really like using the legendary card, like I said, but that's kind of where I'm gonna put her, and you can fight me about it. All right. Next up, we have Spider-Man. So Spider-Man is very good. Personally, I think he's very good. Again, though, he has a bit of an issue with his quick card. Does no damage. It only does knockback. So you'll have to apply a mod to that, which is a bit unfortunate. However, he has a pretty good starting deck from what I can remember. I don't really care too much for the Thwip card, but that's not a problem because the rest of his cards are pretty good, and he has a lot of good cards up and coming as well, like the blues and the purples as well. His legendary is pretty good as well. Lets you just snowball with him quite a bit. It's paired very well with a high damage card and then chain strikes. Because if you can damage a bunch of people, chain strikes has a very high damage output, and you could KO like up to 4 enemies in one go. Super nice. You can have very good snowballing effects with Spider-Man. I'm gonna put him A tier for now. His passive, I don't know, he might be an S. He might be an S for me. His passive, I just remembered, just thinking about it, is very good. Probably one of the better passives. It doesn't have a high percentage, but it seems to activate quite a bit during a match. Basically, it'll refund the heroism cost of an environmental attack for you. And that could be like really clutch. Especially, let's say it didn't activate. He also has another card that will make the next 2 environmental attacks free anyways, and it gives you some moves as well. And depending what the mod is on there, you can have that could be a really stacked card. So he's very good at soloing, going around, using all the environmental attacks, taking out like 4 enemies even before you move your other heroes. He is very strong in my opinion, and I really enjoy his play style. But I just feel like for that reason, his capability to just use everything and not use like any heroism, but able to dish out high amounts of damage and take out multiple enemies, it's amazing. No pun intended, he is the amazing Spider-Man. He's very good. So with Nico, I absolutely hated playing with Nico at first. Her beginning cards they're okay, I guess. Her passive is okay, but it's consistent. It's pretty consistent, I will say. I feel like Doctor Strange is the better support character. However, he doesn't have as high as a ceiling as Nico does for potential. The thing that bites Nico in the behind is that she has very high potential because of her randomness, but also because of her randomness, she can be absolutely useless on the field. I've had times where I haven't even touched her, like during a whole encounter, and they seem to like to attack her a lot. She seems really squishy. Takes a lot of damage, but that obviously doesn't mean anything, but whenever I play, that seems to happen a lot with her. Her healing cards are nice. That's what I will say that's nice about her. But the randomness, it can really swing both ways. So I feel like middle is a good spot for her because she has potential to be really good and potential to be really bad. So I think that's enough said about her. Let's just leave her there. She's an okay character. She's good. She's like midfield. Now, Captain America. You know what? I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna go to Doctor Strange just because we were talking about him already. Doctor Strange is a very good support character. For the most part, there's only two in the game. There's him and Nico. Although you can gear Hunter towards support. Captain America is a pretty big support character, honestly, too. But Doctor Strange is better than Nico. And I'm going to put him... I feel like he's a high B tier. He's almost an A tier. We'll see. That might change. He has a really good passive. There's a chance that you're going to just generate free heroism at the start of each turn. Just out of the blue. And it's a really nice bonus, especially if you're paired with someone like Hulk, who uses a lot of heroism. It just makes it easier to get up there and to use that World Breaker card that you want to use, because that one's so powerful. Doctor Strange has a very good legendary card. However, a lot of his cards are based off of heroism and how much heroism you're able to gather up. So the Axe card of Ergonomus, or however the heck you say it, that one is going to do a lot more damage if you have, a high amount of heroism compared to if you only had like 2. It can be tricky to learn how to build up heroism, but once you kind of figure it out, or things are just going your way in general and you have lots of heroism, he can be very powerful in the right hands. I like using Doctor Strange. I've had good luck with him. More luck with him than I have with Nico. He just fits my playstyle better. I also like his cards that he has a bit better. The concealment card that he gets, the purple one with the dragon, I'm blanking out on the name. That one can be upgraded, and it'll also heal and cure. So that's like super overpowered. You can just have someone like Wolverine taunt everyone, then use that card on him. Bam, no enemies are going to be attacking you that turn. It's a good thing to fall back on for sure. I'd say he's either high B or a low A. I might put him low A, so I'll kind of put him here for now, and just in case, we'll go kind of left to right. So like this rating here, Hunter is stronger than Doctor Strange in my opinion. Captain America, I want to put him S tier. Will we have 2 S tiers this video? That is a hard decision. He's very good. Now, are you Team Captain America or Team Captain Marvel? Because they're both tanks. They both have potentially high damage output. I think Captain America is a little bit better in my opinion. Just because he has that support capability as well. Now, Captain Marvel can taunt, but so can Captain America, except the only difference is when he taunts, he gets block. And depending what card it is, when he taunts, he will also give allies block as well, which is super helpful. Captain Marvel, I think, for the most part, will taunt, give herself block, or she will just gain counter for that. So she's kind of a tank in her own way, whereas Captain America's a beefy tank that supports his allies as well, which I'm all about. I love that. His legendary card is also very good. It's very good when you pair it with the best defense. And I'll tell you why. So if you use that card, basically any attack you do, it's going to give him block. His legendary card consumes block to do damage. So if you're able to build up block with him, and then pop the best defense, use the legendary card, alright? Let's say you have like 500 block on this guy. He will do a ton of damage in a line to everybody standing in his way, and because you had best defense played, he's immediately going to gain all that block back, and he's going to have full block again. And he will taunt as well. So it is extremely powerful. When people learn how to use that card, their minds are blown at how powerful he is. His passive, even though his passive's pretty garbage, everything else about him is amazing. It is so good. It works so well. He's so good at supporting teammates. He's so good at just lone surviving it. His passive it just generates block each turn, but it's not enough block where it's significant. Like, your high levels, like if you're around level 24, around there with your characters, he will get like 20 block at the start of a turn, which isn't very much. It's not very useful, but I guess it's something. He's just lucky that he has literally not a single garbage card. All of his cards are amazing, and he just works well with the team. So I have to put him up at S. I think Spider-Man is still a bit better. I don't know. They might be tied. They're probably my two favorites, which is funny because I don't play as Spider-Man a lot, but I recognize his power. He's very powerful. Now Wolverine, before I get started, I'm going to have a sip of coffee here. There we go. Wolverine, I like playing. I played as him quite a bit. I like bringing him on missions. I just like that chaining he does. That being said, I do have a lot of experience with him. Lots of people like rating him somewheres down here. And I could see why. But also I can't see why, because he is a pretty decent character. I'm going to put him in B. And here's why. He's like almost a different version of a tank, just without block. That's what makes Captain America better. Because Wolverine, you gotta rely on healing yourself, it's very effective, but Captain America will effectively have like double the amount of health just because he'll have this insane amount of block on top of his insane amount of health. So that's what makes him better than Wolverine at tanking. Now Wolverine, I've had very good luck with him. He seems to play very good. You taunt enemies, he takes a bunch of damage, and at the start of the next turn, you want to try and play his cards so that he heals. Now, his passive is pretty good. If there's a card of his that you don't want to play, that's not going to do damage or something, if you redraw it, it'll give him health. Like, a pretty decent amount of health, too. It's a pretty good passive. I like to carry 2 Berserk cards in my deck, because the way I play with them is I like to taunt, tank, heal, taunt, tank, heal. And I'll just keep doing that with him, and he's relatively unstoppable unless too many enemies target him at once, which rarely happens. So if you play like a Berserk card, play a quick swipe and a couple of other cards, he'll heal back up to full health, no problem. Everybody will be taunted, attack him, you start the next turn, you do the same thing. It works really well, actually. And it keeps your other heroes, like Deadpool, for example, the new DLC character, keeps him relatively safe, and you can keep those Enfuego stacks. Wolverine's legendary card is very good, has potential to be very, very, very good. You might have seen me post a short about his video when I used 10 heroism on it. It has very good snowballing effect. It can take out a lot of enemies at once. It's a very good card, excuse me. I just feel like he is a learning curve, though, so that's what doesn't put him in A or S. I don't think he's A or S regardless, though. I feel like, if anything, he's about a B or a C, but he is better than Scarlet Witch. So I'm going to put him in a B. Blade, again, I like the chaining, but I hate how much he relies on bleed. Now, bleed is nice, but it's kind of useless in the fact that you're relying on ending your turn, and then bleed doesn't happen instantly. The enemy has to attack you first, and then they'll take bleed damage. So that's where bleed really falls down for me, because it's like a back closet thing that you're going to rely on, because you know you're going to get attacked before the bleed damage takes effect. Now, that being said, Blade is a little bit... He kind of sacrifices your team's health, but he can dish out bleed to like every enemy. And if you have a card like Reaper, if you're able to stack like 8 bleeds on like a Guardian and use Reaper on that, you're going to one-shot that Guardian. So like, there is potential. It is very powerful, but it is also very doo-doo, we'll call it. I just don't like relying on bleed. I just think back to like XCOM strats, for example. You want to take out the enemies that are going to attack you and do damage to you. And if all you could do is apply bleed to them, they're still going to attack you when you end the turn. they're going to take the bleed damage, and they're probably not going to get KO'd. They're probably still going to be alive, I would assume. So, I don't know. I would say he's better than Scarlet Witch. He has very powerful potential, so I'm going to put him in C. Him relying on bleed is just, it's not great. His legendary card is decent. It's a big AoE attack, and it'll apply bleed to every enemy. So that could be nice if you have a Reaper card in your hand. If you can't already tell, I really like the Reaper card. That's a really good card if you're trying to play with Blade effectively, like how he's supposed to be played, which is bleed damage. I do, however, that all being said, he's probably one of the more fun and challenging players or heroes to play as just because of that. I do enjoy that fact that he is a challenge to play as, but he's also very fun to play as. So is Wolverine and Spiderman. When you're able to chain a bunch of things and their animations just look so good, he's very fun to play as. I will give him that. Ghost Rider, probably one of my favorites Marvel comic hero / anti-hero, just characters in general. That being said, like I said at the top of this video, I won't rate him as high as I want to. I want to put him all the way up here, but I don't know, his starting deck is kind of not good. I've played lots of Ghost Rider. He is very hard to master. You may think you're using him right, but you're not using him to his full potential because you're going to think, oh, he does do quite a bit of damage. But no, he can do a lot more than that. But you just got to play your cards pretty, like, spot on with him. An example, I'm talking about cards such as Hell Ride, which is an unfortunate card because it discards your whole deck. However, it is a very good card if you're able to play all of your heroes' cards right, and you still have one play left and a move left, and Hellride's your only card, so therefore it's not going to discard any cards in your deck because it's your last card, and it does a ton of damage to enemies in a line. It only costs 3 heroism, and it doesn't have any other negative like effects to it. Like, he's not going to take damage or anything like that. So for him, it's a very powerful card, but it's kind of situational, and you got to play your cards right, and sometimes you aren't always dealt the right cards. Although, discarding your hand's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, you always want to use Hellride on your last card play. Like, let's say you still have 4 cards left, and it's your last card play. Discarding that whole hand might be the play, because you might not want to use any of those cards, even in the next turn. They're just not dealt the right way to you, so sometimes it comes in clutch. But he can be hard to use. Drain Souls, very good card, except the fact that it keeps stacking and it can get up to 5 heroism. Oops, that's 5. Very expensive. Penance there, very powerful, but then, you know, he takes that damage when he uses it. Lash, he takes his damage for using that card. So it's a very back and forth with Ghost Rider. Is like, you know, you take damage and then you got to heal with Drain Souls. You take more damage, you got to drain with heal soul or the Drain Souls, and you're at the same time trying to get souls by KOing enemies so you can increase your max health. Ghost Rider isn't very, he's very, very hard to use on a higher difficulty just because enemies do so much damage and they have so much more health. The health isn't a problem because he can one-shot them with Penance there, for example. However, they do a lot of damage, so like Penance there will take half your health away, and if there's still like 2 enemies targeting him, he's gonna get KO'd. So he's very hard to use on higher levels, but he can be very fun to play as, and he's fairly decent otherwise, so I'm gonna put him about a B. He's better than these 3, in my opinion. He overall kind of at everything, but I'm not gonna put him A or S. He's not better than these ones because, like I said, you play on a higher difficulty, he's almost unusable. You're just gonna have to bring someone that can taunt for him because he's kind of squishy because he does damage to himself. So you just got to be careful about that. We have Captain Marvel. Now, like I said, I should have just did this after I talked about Captain America. She's gonna go in A tier. Captain Marvel is very good. She's a very good character. Me myself, I would just pick Captain America over her if I wanted a tank. He's, like I said, more my playstyle. I just think he's a little bit better, offers a little bit more. However, her passive is better than his, I will say, because she gains counter from it. So counter is a pretty nice thing to fall back on. Then again, it's kind of like bleed as well. Like the enemy's got to attack you first, and then you'll dish out damage to them. So just keep that in mind. Her legendary card is good. It's okay. It's an AoE attack. It doesn't do as much damage as I would like it to do. Then again, if you're binary, it will do a ton more damage. So that's probably why. So that's totally fair. She has a good starting deck, but she doesn't have any quick cards that I could think of. I think the only quick card she has is a blue one. So her starting deck doesn't have that. And I do like Quick Jab. That's a good card. She's very fun to play as. Her binary is very good. She's very tanky. She does a lot of damage. The only thing is, you got to play 3 cards first to get to binary, and it's always my luck at the beginning of a turn. I have like only one of her cards, and it's like, do I redraw? And then I do redraw, and then I still don't get any of her cards to play. So sometimes it could be just really annoying to get to that binary state. But once you do, it's very worth it, and she's very powerful in her own right. So very valuable tank option. I will put her in A. That's a very good mark for her. I still think Hunter is probably a little bit better. She's better than Doctor Strange as well. Hulk. Big ol' green mean machine. I don't think we're going to have any F tiers this video, but we will see. These guys are better than Fs. Hulk. He is pretty powerful. Again, hard to play as, though. You can accidentally KO him if you taunt too many enemies, such as like, you're playing and there's like a Shadow Hound and you taunt them. You're like, oh yeah, it's just one. Meanwhile, there's 3 other ones like on the side of the map that you don't notice, or you just, your brain forgets that if you taunt a Shadow Hound, you taunt all of them, and then he gets KO'd the next turn. So the bright side is when he gets attacked, he gets rage. When he gets rage, he gets angry. You know what happens when Hulk gets angry? He does a lot of damage. So if you can fill out that bar, he is an absolute beast. It's very good when you pair a full rage bar, even if it's only like 3 filled up. Even 1. Like if you have 1 bar on that rage, it's actually crazy how much more damage it does. Especially when you pair it with something like Seismic Slam. Arguably probably one of his better cards, or World Breaker, his legendary card. I think that cost a big ol' 6 heroism for that card, because it literally destroys everything. There's no circle on it. It hits everything on the map. It is insanely powerful. Now you can imagine that with a full rage bar, you will one-shot like everything. It is insane how powerful it is. His, I think it's called Always Angry. You can consume your rage bar to overheal. So you can have like a 2000 health Hulk if you play your cards right. And when you play that card, it does drain your rage. However, it does give you another rage bar on top of that. So I think instead of the 5, it'll go to 6. Pretty snazzy. But then again, you got to work your rage back up. He can be very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. However, he can get KO'd pretty easily in those first few turns before you overheal, assuming you have that card. I think I'm going to put him... Oh, man, he's a hard one to rank. I want to put him high B or maybe A, but I feel like he's in the same situation as Ghost Rider. On a higher difficulty, he needs to be, like, to play Hulk, he needs to get attacked. He needs that rage. There's only 1 card in his deck, I believe, that you can use, which is Challenging Roar, which will generate rage for him without being attacked. So I think that would make him a bit better than Ghost Rider. I'm going to put him high B, I think. I think he's better than Wolverine, for sure, but not by very much. These two are pretty even, which is kind of funny because, They're kind of big comic rivals, so I kind of like that. Next up, we have Iron Man. For some reason, Iron Man's probably one of the heroes I don't use as much. I don't know why. Like, I even use these bottom tier ones a bit more than him. Probably because I'm trying to figure out how to play as these ones, and they just don't groove with me. But Iron Man's a pretty good all-around hero. Does good damage. He supports allies pretty good. You can give him block, mark enemies for them. He does have a pretty good legendary card that can hit multiple enemies at once. He's a like now that I'm thinking about it, he's a very good overall character. He has a pretty decent passive. Like he's pretty good, and I kind of want to put him in B. Except I feel like he's better. He's better than all of those ones for sure. I feel like yeah. Let's move him again here. So we want Wolverine there. We'll put Ghost Rider. We'll put Hulk. And we'll put Iron Man. I feel like that's a good spot for him. If you look at the tier list, I'm kind of going like, this is super overpowered. This is very good. This is like, these are like just overall just good characters. These are middle ground, have potential. They need some work, and they're unusable. Luckily, we don't have any characters that are unusable. 2K and Fire Axis seem to make pretty decent characters, like overall. So, in my opinion, there's no Fs. But yeah, Iron Man, just a good all-around character. Someone, if you don't know who else to bring on your mission, bring Iron Man. He's a really good fallback. He's got really good potential to do high damage too, especially with like cards like Surgical Strike, which I personally like better than that purple one. I forget what that one's called, but it attacks every enemy on the map. Surgical Strike, if you pair him with like a lot of cards that aren't attack cards, you'll find that you stack a lot of them in your deck, and you'll be able to chain like 6 attacks on Surgical Strike. It's amazing. It's really good. Anyways, that's my little banter about Iron Man. The newest addition to Midnight Suns. Soon they also plan on releasing some other heroes, which I'm probably going to do a video on that as well. Fun fact. They've already been announced. There's 3 other heroes coming into the game. There's also a ton of Easter eggs in the game. So I might do kind of a video about that as well, and we'll kind of discuss who we think's gonna come into the game after this season pass. But anyways, off that sidebar, we have Deadpool. Now, when Deadpool came out, Jake Sullivan tweeted about Deadpool and how he's very fun to play as. I can confirm Deadpool is very fun to play as. Very charming, very funny, witty character. Now, I'm not going to take that into consideration when ranking him, but I will say that he's very Deadpool, alright? And we all know how a Deadpool acts. His cards, he has pretty good cards. I really enjoy his Enfuego. It can be hard to stack because, like lots of characters, if you don't get his cards, he's not going to get that stack and that damage bonus. However, if you upgrade his, I think it's called All Together now, the one with the rainbow and the unicorn that runs across, it gives you cards. Every Enfuego stack you have, it'll give him an additional card to be drawn. And it's not limited to his cards, it's limited to everybody's cards. So, I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's pretty good, but I'm not sure if I would like that better or a Deadpool card better. I'm not really sure. Because when you upgrade that card, it might be an upgrade or it's a mod. I can't remember. It's one of the two. It's either a mod or an upgrade, but I have a thing on that card where if I use it, any ally, the next 2 KOs from anybody will count towards his Enfuego status. So if Hunter goes and KOs an enemy, that'll count towards Deadpool's Enfuego. And he still has one more stack after that. So if Hulk goes and KOs someone, he'll get another point towards Enfuego. So when he doesn't have cards, that can be a nice fallback on, and that can still buff him. Pretty good. It's pretty hard to get to full Enfuego with him. I think it's like 5 you can get up to with him. I've done it once, but I did it for a trophy, but I had to play like 10 turns just to get to it because I wasn't getting the right cards. But I was like, I want the trophy, so I did it. But anyways, Infuego can be very good because it buffs all of his cards. Literally every single card in his deck is affected by Infuego. Now that can also be a downfall, right? Like I was saying, if you don't have any Infuego, he can be pretty weak. But if you have at least 2 Infuego, he's pretty powerful and he can one-shot enemies pretty good. Especially the more Infuego you have. I like that his quick shot works if you KO an enemy, you can chain to someone else. So pairing that with a mod such as apply 1 weak or 1 bleed, anything like that is very good because you can take out a minion and then chain it to like a guardian or something. Someone that's going to do lots of damage or just has lots of health. And you can add a status effect to them. So he has very good cards. His legendary card is Burning Sensation. It's I would say it's mid-ground. It's good. It's okay. But you almost want a lot of Infuego when you're going to use that card because it'll do decent amount of damage, but I feel like other people's cards are better and have better potential. If you have low Infuego, man, count the amount of times I've said that this video. If you have low Infuego with him, it's not going to do enough damage for you, so keep that in mind. But I feel like overall, he's a good character. He's got a good passive, so if he does take damage, he will heal. That being said, when he does take damage, he loses 1 Infuego status, so keep that in mind. He's really well paired with people that can taunt, such as Wolverine, or people who can apply resist to him, which would be like Doctor Strange, or concealment, so he doesn't get hit. You don't want him getting hit, because that will debuff him, or nerf him, in a sense. So keep that in mind. He's a bit of a challenge to play as. He's really fun to play as. He's not too hard to learn. I kind of want to put him... Is he better? I feel like he belongs somewheres. I don't think he's quite A tier just because his legendary card isn't quite... Like, when you look at these guys, they all have a pretty decent legendary card. Captain Marvel's is debatable, but she's just strong in her own right, so that's why she's up there. I feel like he belongs... somewheres here. I'm gonna put him between Hulk and Iron Man. And I think that's gonna be our tier list. I'm kind of looking at them now to see if there's anything I would change. And it's sad seeing Magik down there. But I also don't really find her that fun to play as either. And I feel like that's kind of a big factor too. They just need to, I don't know, something about her. If she had damage on those first few cards I was talking about, she would definitely be higher because that Demon Child is a very good card, probably the best legendary, like I said, that you can get. Aside from Hulk's. Hulk's is very good too. But yeah, let me know what you think about this tier list I've got here. Interested to hear how people would rate a little bit different. Give me your opinions on why you think someone would be rated higher or lower. What your kind of play style is. Let me know in the comments below. But anyways, guys, that has been tier list. Bam, we're done. Like I said, I'm gonna do some other Midnight Sun videos that I've teased. So maybe some Easter egg videos or upcoming heroes. We'll talk about that. And until then, I will see you in the next video. Have an awesome day, everybody.